I was born in the Philippines, in Manila. I've been here for 70 years. I've been with Ateneo de Manila University, which is a Jesuit university, in the psychology department for around 45 years now. Well, I do peace and political psychology, both in the beginning, the first half of my adult life, it was as a more like a practitioner, because there was no such thing as peace and political psychology then. So I was in the movement against the dictatorship. Was very active and took on leadership roles there. And then in the second half of my adult life, I went into doing academic work. Many of my friends in the first half of my adult life were tortured and killed and etc. So I've gone through that. And also I've gone through organizational divisions with deep debates on violence, on non-violence, or whether to work in the new government or stay outside the new government. So I met Canberra Quakers friends in 1991, sort of at that time. I was in Australia National University doing a fellowship on negotiating for peaceful negotiations to end coup d'etats. And there was an invitation from the Friends House to join a workshop on nonviolent strategies to resolve conflict. The guests were Quakers from North Ireland. So I went and I was very interested in the group, in the Quakers. And so I started attending every Sunday. I was drawn to them because this is my first meeting. I was with, for lack of a better word, whites. I was with whites, and really for the first time they were not lecturing to me. They were just quiet. A few meetings later, when I found my voice, my squeaky voice, I said a sentence and I felt it sank. So that was what drew me to the Quakers. Of course, all the Peace Testament and everything like that too. So I went back to the Philippines after a year. I lost touch with Canberra Quakers. I went back to Australia for a year, around a year, 7 months maybe, to work in La Trobe again on a research fellowship. I reached out to the northern suburbs Quakers, Melbourne northern suburbs friends, and then I started attending regularly. And after that, I was formally, it was like a formal application, and I was formally accepted. But my acceptance was to the northern suburbs friends meeting. So now I'm formally a member of the northern suburbs Quaker meeting. My understanding of the Quaker peace testimony and how it comes into fruition, how it becomes real, is it asks for the avoidance of harming another physically or mentally, like the testimonies of protecting Jews from the Nazis, or resolving conflicts between groups or people. So the harm and avoiding physical harm or emotional harm. What aspects remain colonized? There is attention to individual interpersonal or individual peace, peace inside oneself, or peace between two people. So in those instances, the transgressors are concrete, but there's intent, there is usually there is a victim, a specified victim, and there is a specified transgressor. The colonization is not individualized, nor is it internal. Well, it is. I mean, there are internal and interpersonal expressions, but by and large, colonization is massive. It's public, it's not private. So it's public, it's massive, it's historical. It is between nations, it's not between groups. So in that way, the understanding of well, the Quaker Peace Festival is fine, it's not wrong, but it's not sufficient. Historically, the meaning of the word peace has been used to muffle us. So during colonial times, especially during the Spanish and the US colonizations in the Philippines, words that were associated with peace, in the name of those words, we were conquered and and, and we were quieted as our people and mineral resources were stolen. And then if you question those who come in the name of the democracy, then you become a traitor. Or in the later days, you become a communist. Now you become a terrorist, but it's just the label. It's these are labels used to hurl at voices that question. And then after the Second World War and we were into our so-called democracy, then dictatorships arose. What I know about Southeast Asia is the dictatorships that arose were supported by the superpowers. So we became like the front of Russia, China, and the US. The Philippines Marcos dictatorship was supported by the US, but others like Cambodia was supported by China, Vietnam was supported by Russia. So again, it was a colonial narrative. The nomenclature used was peace and order. So those who violated peace and order were subversives, and then that's where that was used. There was an anti-subversive law that allowed you to be caught and put in prison without any procedure. So at that time it was the anti-subversion law, but now it's the anti-terrorist law. So it's the same. I mean, to me, it's used to pick up without reason and detain. So that's how peace was used. So it's a bit careful that when somebody evokes, or when a group evokes peace, is it for muffling? In many instances, it's for social muffling. Say that there was a time when religion was the opium of the people. It kept people quiet. Now peace is the thing that's keeping people quiet on a massive level. But wants to nuance these things. One has to be very careful. peace negotiations are between a powerful and a less powerful group. The negotiators from the more powerful group ask for the stopping of direct violence like killings and terrorist attacks. That's the meaning of peace to the ones who are more powerful. But the less powerful group in peace talks ask for justice, whether it's territorial justice or some kind of other justice. The narrative is justice. So even even if one does an analysis of how peace talks are talked about, it becomes very clear that there are two meanings of peace talks. And those meanings are anchored on one social position of power. And the social position of power is not individual. It could be group if it's an intrastate conflict. It could be national. So if it's a national power, one is more powerful than the other, and the more powerful nations have their own understanding of peace, and the less powerful might have their own understandings. Build a strong local unprogrammed Quaker group in the Global South. The Quakers in the Global South are either expats, foreign visitors. They're not local. The strong Quaker groups in the Global South are programmed. How does one evolve an indigenous or natural meaning of peace if there is no local silent space that permits this meaning to arise? If we are too busy dancing and singing, and it will not arise. And the dancing and singing usually comes from other foreign countries. I don't know if an original solution will arise. I had a very difficult time. In 2010, there was a regional Quaker meeting held in the Philippines, in Manila. And not the Filipinos, but those who were planning it were not from the Philippines. And the program, it was planned so that it was both a project of the programmed and the unprogrammed. And I remember on the second day, the unprogrammed were so upset because, and we had a conversation with the organizers. I remember very clearly we were saying, this is colonization all over again. You're putting your script on us. It's okay if the top Quaker people want to fuse the programmed and unprogrammed, but don't force us. That's not our local narrative. It sounds so emotionless now, but it was very emotional for us, the unprogrammed. See, the issue of colonization is the issue of muffling the natural voice. And of course, if somehow through the programs, they can unmuffle the colonial voice, that would be fine. I found it easier because I went into the unprogrammed to do this because of the silence. See, the silence connected right away with the muffling. If the narrative, or if to the programmed stream, one can introduce encouragements for local culture to be expressed, not only translations of foreign songs. You translate that, it's the same, but for local feelings to be expressed in the songs. Well, repair is for something wrong that was done in the past. But the Quakers did not do anything wrong, so there's nothing to repair. It's happened. It just happened, and then not the Quakers. So there are things that can be done to further promote social fairness, not only inside countries, but between countries. The things that need to be done can be identified or articulated by the Global South. If that happens, then the agenda, the peace agenda, will not be based on understandings by the rich countries, where the Quakers come from, of what the needs are, what the Global South people need. Now it's that way. It's based on understandings of what the poor countries need. But it will be based on understandings, on collective understandings coming from the people of the Global South. And such understandings are not always personal. But the personal can be very passionate, but they can be balanced by working with a group, with a collective, rather than with individual repairs. What directs the agenda should be collective discernments or collective understandings done in a space that allows for depth and illumination. If we step out of the Quaker-only narrative, the help that can be done is to look at what's going on when the local people come together and work with passion for what they think will help their country and the poor, and then to see how that can be supported. Most of the time it's in politics. Most of the time it's in wrong democracy or misuse democratic labels. A lot of times it's in public public fears. We cannot go back home to a safe place after we speak. We are here. So we take on the consequences in our own lives, in our own bodies. Those who live somewhere else can give comments, but they cannot determine the trajectory of what is peace, because they don't accept the consequences of fighting for real social peace, because they are safe. So the first major step is to listen to the ones who cannot speak. I mean, I say we speak, but we cannot. We speak with our bodies, with our actions, with our everyday decisions, and to listen to that before constructing a solution in the name of those who cannot speak. That's another form of colonization. That's the hardest part, I think, because there's such a temptation to speak in the name of the silent. And the silent can hardly speak because they're just too busy. I mean, busy and careful.